Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to really get into the heart of research, pulling out those key insights you need, well, fast. Today we're tackling a huge decision, maybe one of the biggest in an academic life, applying for a PhD. And look, the appeal is obvious, right? Becoming the expert, doing groundbreaking research, maybe getting that doctor title finally. It's definitely a strong pull for many people.
It really is, and it absolutely can be the right choice. But, our deep dive into the sources, it really shows that before you even dream of clicking submit, there are some really critical questions you absolutely have to ask yourself. So our goal today is basically to give you the unvarnished truth, help you make this decision with, well, your eyes wide open.
Exactly. Think of this as your, let's say, reality map for the whole PhD thing. We're going to cover the money side, the career prospects which are changing, finding that perfect research fit, which is so key, and maybe the most important part, are you actually ready for it? So ready to find out what a PhD really involves? Let's dive in. Okay, let's kick things off right at the start. The big question seems simple, but it's really not. Why do you actually genuinely want a PhD? I mean, beyond the stuff that sounds good, at family gatherings or on paper.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? The motivation piece. Our sources really highlight how often people think about a PhD for, let's call them, the wrong reasons. Maybe they're trying to put off facing a tough job market, or it's purely about the status of being Dr. So-and-so. Or maybe, it just feels like the thing you do after a master's degree. The thing is, these reasons, while kind of understandable, they almost never provide enough fuel to get you through the really intense, sometimes lonely years of doctoral work. They often just lead to burnout, frankly.
That makes a lot of sense. So without that, like core fire, it's basically impossible to push through the hard times. What are the reasons then? The ones that actually keep someone going through years of difficult, sometimes frustrating research.
Exactly. The sources consistently point to two main things: real, honest intellectual curiosity and a clear need for it for your career path. You need to ask yourself, do you genuinely get lost in tackling a complex research problem, like lose track of time? Does the thought of actually pushing the edge of what's known in your field, does that genuinely excite you? And maybe most practically, are the careers you're aiming for, whether that's in academia, maybe high-level R&D in industry, or specialized consulting, do they actually require a PhD? Is it a gatekeeper?
Because, like you hinted, this isn't just, another qualification. It's a huge chunk of your life we're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. One of the starkest things the research points out is that a PhD takes, on average, 4 to 7 years. Depends on the field, of course. But that's 4 to 7 years dedicated pretty much entirely to original research. You're not just absorbing knowledge, you are expected to create it. That's a massive commitment, usually right in your 20s or 30s. Prime years.
So, for you listening right now, what are the specific research questions that genuinely keep you thinking? Can you actually state clearly why your field needs the kind of research you want to do? What problem are you burning to solve?
And look, if you find those questions are kind of hard to answer right now, that's okay. In fact, that's really useful information. It might just mean that getting some more real-world experience first, maybe working in a lab, getting a job in the industry, perhaps even doing a master's could be a really good idea. Solidify those interests before you take the plunge.
Okay, so assuming you're clear on the why, the next massive piece is finding the right fit. And this means both the research area and, maybe even more critically, the advisor. It's not just about going to the fanciest university, is it?
Oh, not at all. It's way more nuanced than just looking at rankings. A huge insight from our sources is the need for some serious digging, almost like detective work, on potential advisors. Don't just read their latest article. You need to look at their whole publication record, their funding history, is it current? And honestly, the most crucial part, you have to talk to their students, both current ones and ones who've graduated. That's where you get the real scoop. You might find someone who publishes constantly, but their students are miserable, or someone who's really hands-off, maybe too hands-off for you. How do their former students fare on the job market? Those frank conversations, they're invaluable.
Right, getting the unvarnished truth. So for you, the listener, when you're doing this digging on advisors, what's your checklist look like? Does their specific research genuinely excite you? Are they actually funded and publishing right now in your area of interest? And crucially, do they graduate students in a decent time frame? And do those graduates get jobs you'd actually consider?
Precisely. And keep an eye out for red flags, too. Things like an advisor who hasn't had anyone graduate in ages, or worse, has a reputation for holding on to students for way too long. Definitely listen if former students give negative feedback. That's huge. Oh, and also consider if they're nearing retirement without a clear plan for who takes over their projects or students.
And the research topic itself, obviously, that's got to resonate. Your interest might shift a bit during the PhD. That's normal, but you need that initial spark, that real curiosity. Our research suggests looking for departments that have several faculty members working in areas you find interesting. Gives you options, some flexibility if things change or your first choice doesn't pan out.
And, zooming out a bit, it's not just the advisor, it's the whole vibe of the lab or the department. The culture matters. Do you work best alone, very independent, or do you thrive in a team setting? Is it super competitive or more collaborative? These things drastically affect your day-to-day life and, honestly, your mental health over several years.
Okay, let's shift gears and tackle the big one, the financial side of doing a PhD. This is often the elephant in the room, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And the way funding works can be wildly different depending on your field. So in STEM areas, science, tech, engineering, math generally, good programs offer what they call full funding. This usually means they cover your tuition fees and give you a living stipend. It might come from being a research assistant or a teaching assistant, maybe a fellowship. That stipend, well, it varies. Could be anywhere from, say, $25,000 to maybe $40,000 a year, depending a lot on the school and where it's located. But then you look at the humanities and social sciences, and it's often a very different picture. Funding there is frequently much more competitive. It might not cover every student or maybe only covers the first few years. It's pretty common for students in those fields to have to kind of patch together funding from different places or, unfortunately, end up taking out substantial loans.
Yeah. So for you listening, it's absolutely vital to dig into this. Are there summer funding options? Can you legally earn extra money? You really have to map out potential income streams.
And that leads right into this really important idea called opportunity cost. It's a big one. Think about it. While you're living on that, let's face it, modest stipend for 5, maybe 6 years, your friends who went straight into jobs after their bachelor's, they're earning full salaries, they're building savings, maybe contributing to retirement funds. Over those years, the difference can easily be hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost earnings and potential investment growth. It's a very real financial sacrifice.
But just to be clear, we're not saying this to scare you off if you're truly passionate. The sources do show that many PhD grads, especially in STEM fields, often get a pretty significant salary bump after they graduate. It can help make up for that lost ground over the long term. The main point here is just be realistic. Plan carefully.
Yeah, and a really practical tip, always research the cost of living in the cities where your potential programs are located. That $30,000 stipend, it's going to feel very different in, say, rural Iowa compared to downtown San Francisco or New York. Location makes a huge difference to your actual quality of life on that budget.
Right. This next part, honestly, this might be one of the most crucial takeaways from our whole deep dive, so really lean in here. The job market for academics, it's fundamentally changed. You absolutely need to understand the career prospects before you start a PhD.
Yeah, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. For most fields, the simple truth is that the majority of people getting PhDs today will not end up as tenure-track professors. The numbers can be pretty sobering, especially in the humanities. Sometimes fewer than 10% land those traditional academic jobs. Now, STEM fields, they tend to have more industry options, that's true, but even there, the academic positions themselves are still incredibly competitive. This isn't saying a PhD isn't valuable. It absolutely is. It just means it's a critical market reality you have to face.
So it doesn't mean don't do it, but it definitely means you have to think beyond that traditional professor path, like from day one of the program. You need to be asking, what other interesting, valuable career paths exist in my field where these skills are needed?
And there are many. Our sources give great examples. For STEM grads, think industry research and development, specialized consulting roles, working in government labs, shaping science policy. For humanities and social science folks, you've got think tanks, publishing houses, nonprofit organizations, various government jobs, research roles in the private sector. Lots of possibilities. And what's really interesting now are these new fields emerging right at that intersection between academia and industry. Things like data science, specialized science communication, research administration. These areas are growing, and they really value the kind of deep analytical training a PhD gives you.
Okay, so here's your homework. Be a detective again. Look up what recent graduates from the programs you're considering are actually doing now. Where did the people who finished 5 years ago end up working? Do they seem happy? What specific skills did they pick up during their PhD that helped them land those jobs outside the ivory tower? You can often find this info.
Definitely. And based on what works, my concrete advice is this. Go into the PhD with a plan A, sure, but also have a solid plan B and maybe even a plan C. Plan A might still be that academic dream, but B could be applying your research skills in industry. C might be something else entirely. Start networking early, go to industry conferences, not just academic ones. Look for internships if possible. Actively work on developing those transferable skills, project management, data analysis, clear communication. They're gold dust everywhere.
Okay, last section. Let's talk about the personal side of this journey. Because a PhD, it's not just about the research, is it? It's a marathon. It tests your resilience, your relationships, your whole life plan.
Absolutely. One thing our deep dive really highlighted is the potential for real isolation. You're often working very independently on your research, and there will be long periods of, well, frustration, experiments that fail, theories that don't pan out, results that are just confusing. It takes tremendous self-motivation, real grit, to just keep going through that uncertainty.
And you really have to think about your life situation, right?
Hmm.
Is your relationship solid? Does your partner really get what this involves? The long hours, the stress, the tight budget. And, you know, if having kids is part of your plan, how does that fit with the PhD timeline? It's definitely doable. People do it. But the sources are clear. It adds a whole other layer of complexity, needs serious thought and planning.
Which brings us to mental health. This is critical. Research consistently shows higher rates of depression and anxiety among PhD students compared to other groups. So, for you, the listener, you need to be honest with yourself about your own support network. Who can you lean on? And just as importantly, what mental health support does the university or the specific program offer? Look into that. These aren't optional extras, they can be lifelines.
It's also worth thinking hard about how you work best, your learning style. Do you need a lot of structure, or do you prefer more freedom and flexibility? Can you really cope with a project that lasts for years, often without clear milestones or regular good job feedback like you might get in classes or a typical job? That ambiguity is a real challenge for some people.
And linking back to careers, there's the geographic question too. A PhD often means moving. Are you prepared for that? And then potentially moving again for a postdoc position after you graduate, and again for a permanent job. Academic careers, in particular, often require significant geographic flexibility. Are you and your family, if you have one, up for that?
So as we wrap this up, the main thing to remember is that deciding on a PhD, it's deeply, deeply personal. It has to feel right, not just intellectually and not just for your career plans, but also for your life, your well-being, your personal circumstances.
Yeah, my final thought, drawing from everything we've looked at, is just take your time. Really sit with all these points we've discussed today. Don't rush it. Talk to people, current students, recent grads, professionals doing jobs you might want. And seriously consider, as the sources suggest, maybe taking a year or two to work in research first. Get that hands-on feel. It can offer so much clarity before you commit.
So here's the final thought for you. If, after all this reflection, this honest look at the realities, you still feel that pull, that excitement about doing original research, about creating new knowledge, then maybe the biggest question isn't just if a PhD is right for you. Maybe it's what unique contribution, what new knowledge are you the person to bring into the world?